Well, hello again. I am back to talk about the real estate market here in the Austin metro area. I'm very, very excited because I have some really good news to share with everybody right now. Whether you're a buyer or a seller or just a homeowner, you're going to be thrilled to understand what's happening here specifically in the Austin metro area. And guess what? If you don't know who I am already, I'm Brendan. I'm with Keller Williams, and I love data. So let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the information. I'm going to share the screen with you, and this way you can follow along and see the same thing I'm looking at. And first of all, to be clear, we're looking over the information from July 1st to the 15th of just single family residential homes. All right. And I pulled all of the data directly from MLS, and I went ahead and just summarized everything. And normally I talk about it on the next slide. But before I do that, I want to jump into unemployment. Everybody's asking, hey, how's unemployment going to go ahead and affect REO and bank-owned properties and whatnot? So let me go ahead and just smash that really quick. First of all, we know that unemployment rates are much higher with the younger population. And that kind of makes sense because, servers and whatnot tends to be a younger pool. But how does that impact real estate? Let's talk about that. So first of all, we know that 54.1% of the unemployed individuals are under the age of 24. Well, we also know that population, we only, 3% of that population buys or sells a home. With that node, that means 45.9% of the unemployed are above the age of 25, and they're more likely to buy a home. We also can see that the unemployment rate here in Austin is 11.4%. So if we take all of this, of course, we do our math and divide everything, we know that the unemployment rate that's likely going to impact the real estate market is 5.2% of individual buyer and sellers. Well, guess what, people? 5% is normal for the Fed of unemployment. So we're not incredibly out of line when it comes to unemployment. And yes, I want to be very sensitive and say it is extremely unfortunate to be unemployed. But in regards to real estate, it's really not making an impact here in our area whatsoever. So the likelihood of trying to find your bank-owned properties or REOs is just not likely right now. And from what we're seeing, math is just not going to be happening. But I can't predict the future, right? So I never want to say never ever it's going to happen, but numbers don't lie. So let's go into the data summary like I normally do. We know that homes are selling 18.4% faster compared to this time last month, right? It's a 40-day trend to close versus a 49-day from last month. Okay, and that's called average days on market. We also know that the number of new listings that are coming on the market, we're at 1,986 listings versus this time last year, right? We were healthy last year at 2,050 listings. That's not a big difference, all right? Now, if we compare our numbers this month, the 1,986 compared to last month, we're up about 20 listings. So we haven't really increased that much of our inventory for buyers to come purchase. Let's talk about your close price to list price ratio. We are at 100%. That's the same as last month, and we've only seen that once before, and that was a little earlier in the year. That rarely happens, right? That just means because of the low inventory, the high demand of buyers, we're noticing that if a seller wants $400,000, they're likely to get $400,000 as long as the home is marketed and priced correctly on the market. If you want to try to get $10,000, $20,000 above asking just because of the low inventory, you're wasting your time. That's because the appraisers will not appraise the home that high, and you're just going to lose a deal as a seller. Forget about it. It's also good news for a buyer because you're not going to be outrageously paying for something if it's not going to be valued at what it's supposed to be worth. Now, let's go into the next item, median list price. Well, we know that has increased from $362,947 now to $364,240, and that is just in a 2-week time period of a few $1,000s. That's amazing, of course, when you're a seller, but just know that's the median, right? So it doesn't mean that home prices have necessarily increased that much overall. It just means that the average price or the median price inside of the Austin metro area is near that 364. Okay. Now let's talk about the median sold price. All right. That went up 3.6%. So from 347 to 360 compared to this time last month. Now, when we're looking at active listings, so the overall active listings, so not just new listings, but overall active listings, that has increased 45.8% compared to this time last month. And prior years, we're seeing that there's obviously an increase in the month of July. So that's kind of a normal trend, right? Not surprising. And closed sales, I normally talk about only once a month, and that's near the 1st, okay? All right, let's talk about the conclusion. We know that business is still happening. People are still buying and people are still selling, all right? Especially here. Sellers, let's talk about you really quick. It is a good time to be a seller, depending on what market you are in within the Austin metro area. For instance, there's certain areas throughout the city that aren't doing very well, and allow us as a realtor to go ahead and guide you on what is happening. Now, we also know that sellers, you're able to go get a higher sold and list price. That's obvious from the data. And homes are selling faster than ever before, so be prepared to move quickly. When it comes to closing, kind of anticipate that you may get above asking price if you market your home at a very fair market value. And appraisal issues, we just spoke about that. Don't expect over 10, 20,000, so I won't go into that again. And home values, of course, are increasing. So overall, sellers, you're in a good position and you should be happy at this point. When it comes to a buyer, all right, buyers, this is definitely a good time to buy. Your interest rates are lower than they have ever been before, like 2.5% in some of these areas, 2.2% with another lender that we saw. It is absolutely crazy. That means you're able to go ahead and buy more home for still the same price each month. Amazing. Lenders may become more difficult to, and let me correct again. Lending may become more difficult to achieve. Minimum credit scores are now at 640, and some of them are now at 680 as a minimum. So as COVID starts to go, we see that the lenders don't want to make another 2008 mistake, right? They're just not going to go and give loans out. So they're going to have your criteria more strong, more stringent. So if you're wanting to buy a home now and you have maybe a lower credit score around the 650, you might want to make that decision and pull the trigger before we get to maybe something higher, and then you're no longer allowed to buy a home. Home values, of course, are strong and steady. Inventory has slightly increased compared to last month. And since it's the summertime, expect to have strong competition, especially with renovated homes. New construction is a very, very good alternative if you are using a real estate agent. If you want to go on your own, expect to not get a deal, okay? They're not going to tell you what the good deal is. That's why they communicate with us as a real estate agent, and it's free to use if you're a buyer. When it comes to urgency, it is key to go ahead and view a home as soon as possible, and your decisions are going to have to be made quickly. You can't go out Tuesday and think, hey, I want to now make an offer on Saturday. No, you're going to see that homes go within a day or two. So again, urgency is definitely your key to success. Expect to also pay closer to your market value and your market price. The buyer demand is still greater than active listings. So multiple offers, of course, is going to likely occur. We already spoke about unemployment. It's really not impacting real estate right now. And we already spoke about the very low interest rates. So COVID is still impacting inventory, which is still having your higher prices, and the values are keeping up with the strong demand. So if you have any questions whatsoever, if you're interested in the market, give me a ring. I'm happy to go ahead and discuss this data with you and really give you some guidance if needed. So thank you so much. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.